It's another episode of the Brett Allan Show, and today we have a very special guest. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. Barry Shabaka Henley, you can see him currently on Bob Hearts Abishola, and just an amazing filmography altogether. I'm excited to talk about your career. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks for taking the interest and time, Brett.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's start with Bob Hearts because this is a fun show.
Oh, yeah.
It's a show full of heart, a show full of meaning, important message. How has this been for you? Because, I mean, this, I think, honestly, and I don't say this lightly, is probably one of the best shows on television right now.
Well, unfortunately, I don't watch a lot of television, but the quality of it's top shelf. All the way down from the producers, creators, Chuck Lorre, Gina Yashere, Al Higgins, who's executive producer and showrunner. From top to bottom, it's just an amazing experience. Everybody's proficient and everybody gets along, which is something I found rare. And after 3 years, people are getting along even better. It's become like a family.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that people get along. I find that fascinating because I've talked to a lot of amazing people like yourself who have been in the industry and I would consider to be veterans of what you do. And, when you're on a show like this or any really show and you're working together regularly and you're always together, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to get along necessarily.
No. No, I mean, this is rare. And, I've been working quite a long time in terms of just, being an actor. And this is the best overall situation I've ever encountered. I mean, I wake up in the morning loving going to work. And when I get there, it's just a warm and beautiful, friendly feeling. And everybody there, they're ultimate professionals. So there isn't any sort of competitiveness everybody is there for the same mission, which is to make a good product. And I think Bob Hearts Abishola is a tremendous product.
Yeah, 100%. I found out about the show through a friend who had been watching from the beginning. I came in just at the end of the first season. And I tell you, I mean, it's a show that's a lot of fun. Obviously, there's a lot of family messages there, a lot of importance just about caring for people and really, something that you can sit down and watch with the entire family and you don't have to worry about anything weird happening or having to fast forward or hit the pause button.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or cover your kids' eyes or anything.
Yeah.
Which we've done in the past.
Yes, I know. Well, I have a 7-year-old. Trust me, I understand completely. Even just with animated films lately, I've had to sort of be very careful about what's out there. Because you just never know. Now, you said something interesting, and I kind of want to explore this a little bit, that you don't watch a lot of TV, probably because you're busy making it, right? Or making films. So when you're not doing that, what do you fill your time with to sort of kind of keep the creative juices flowing? Or are you just, I think people would find that very interesting, or anything fun or hobbies maybe that you fill your time with, or are you just always doing something?
Well, I am always doing something, but my biggest hobby outside of traveling, I love to travel and see different places. And I think much of my education in life has come through travel. But reading is one of my great, great pleasures in life. And I've fortunately gained the habit as a very young person. And now, I'm just obsessed with reading. And there's so much amazing material out there and so much stuff that I can't even get to yet. But I really, really am an avid reader. I love biographies. I love things from foreign countries. I love great novels. Somebody asked me once, what is your favorite book? And that's a hard question to answer. But when I think about it, it isn't. My favorite book is a book that I've read at least 4 times, and it's Gabriel Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. I think it is the greatest novel ever written, and I revisit it as often as possible.
Yeah, I think reading sadly has become a lost art, so to speak. Again, I don't know. It just, now with books on tape, which I think is okay, obviously, but I think there's something to be said about sitting down and actually picking up a physical book and reading it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And being
I mean, I don't have a Kindle or anything like that. I read the books made of paper, and
nice.
I pass them on, and I buy several copies of ones I like so I can give them to gifts to readers. I have a group of friends that have a reading club that I am not able to be in, but I'm an associate member, and they take a lot of my recommendations because I get so excited about reading stuff that it's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I think that's very fascinating. Again, just instilling that skill set into my child and really just making sure that people understand how important it is to read, because I think too, maybe as a creative, that sort of keeps the juices flowing a little bit, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It keeps them flowing and it renews them. I mean, you could be doing something that's not so exciting in the world and you pick up a book and it's like you've been rejuvenated by this. I can't stress it enough. I have a 15-year-old who could care less about reading, but unless he's forced to. But I understand in this generation, it's not as popular as it was in my generation.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. That's why I'm so thankful that, I credit a lot of that to his mom, just continuing to instill that passion of reading books. Not to mention, obviously, it's mandatory, so to speak, but, I think it's different. I'm 47 and I know growing up, we didn't have social media. We didn't have, any of the technology that exists, even how you and I are communicating right now,
right.
Having a good conversation. It didn't exist. We talked to people face to face. We weren't always buried in cell phones, and we were able to kind of have a different sort of connection with people. And going back to this whole thing about the show that you're a part of currently, that's one of the things that I like, is that your character in particular is just, although he's fun and he likes to have a good time, there's a lot of important relationships going there. You mentioned you have a 15-year-old son, which is great. Do they have any interest in what you're doing? Do they show any kind of signs of wanting to go into the industry, or are you kind of like, as long as, or maybe not, and you're okay with that?
Well, I mean, I'm okay with anything that he chooses that's going to bring him contentment and raise his consciousness. I'm down for it. At 15, the communication starts to change.
Okay.
So his god sister knows more about what's going on with him on a daily basis than I do. So I have to talk to her about what's going on. But, he expressed interest at one point. He said, Dad, I think I want to be an actor. And I said, oh, okay. Well, now is the time to start working on it. Why don't you start with an acting class? He's like, oh, no, I don't want to take an acting class. I said, okay, well, just read scripts or just read in general. He's like, oh, I hate reading. I said, okay, well, as an actor, reading is your number one, the number one thing you have in your tool bag. Yeah. And it is the thing that will broaden your horizons as a human being. Because for me, I mean, acting has, I think, humanized me in a way that if I weren't doing it, I don't know if I would be, because it's given me an opportunity to, without judgment, look into other people's lives.
Yeah.
And try to find the truth in it and express it. And for me, that gives me a broader understanding of humanity, of those that I am completely have different views with or upbringings. Or for me, I would have to say acting has humanized me because it's put me in touch with human beings that I normally wouldn't. So I say to my son, okay, well, how are you going to be an actor? And he goes, well, maybe I don't want to be an actor. I said, okay. And a couple of days later, he comes back. He says, Dad, I want to be a stuntman. I said, okay. It's a very dangerous job. And all the stuntmen I know have broken several bones in their bodies and blah, blah, blah. And he says, I still think I want to be a stuntman. So that was about 4 months ago. He told me he wanted to be a stuntman. I didn't discourage him, but I would rather he not, because just being a parent, the safety of it all just drives you crazy. I mean, and he's a big skateboarder. He skateboards downstairs and all kinds of crazy stuff. Reluctant to wear a helmet. I said, look, who's a great skateboarder? Tony Hawk's, right? He wears a helmet. He said, yeah, but he's skating in and out of pools, Dad. I'm not. So I don't know. I mean, he's an extremely bright kid. He's bright enough to know that he doesn't like school, and not because of school itself, but I think he has a kind of issue with structures of hierarchy.
Sure.
And I think that's healthy,
Oh, yeah,
but,
for sure.
I try to encourage him just with the basics, and reading for me is, I often think of what my life would be if I never learned to read. How small it would be if I never learned to read, if I never read Edgar Allan Poe or Shakespeare or Toni Morrison. What would my life be like? I can't even imagine it. I can't imagine it.
Yeah. No, I like what you said there. A couple different things about, questioning certain things, and that's okay to be able to do that, and especially to be able to have a parent that sort of supports that, and not just following people around blindly necessarily. Yeah. Because not to make it political, but as we can see, by our culture right now, there's a lot of that perhaps maybe not happening. And when it does happen, it's not taken very well. And I think, to encourage there's a positivity to it is my point. And I think that's great. And the fact that, that you attribute a lot of your success in your life just to being able to read and really sort of encourage yourself. And I mean, as an actor, you've done so many different things, you know what I'm saying? And been a part of so many different projects. And I think as parents, what we want the most of all is just for our kids to be successful in life. You know what I mean? And happy. And happy. Because I know for myself, I can oftentimes project, even though I don't think about it consciously, what my father was like. And I find myself saying and doing things, and responding in ways that don't necessarily reinforce the positive, if that makes any sense. And it's encouraging. I mean, I look at your work and I consider you to be successful in this business, but also the humanized side of you as well, which I think is very fascinating. And having watched you in so many different things and all these different characters that you played, it's interesting and fun to get to know you on a personal level. Growing up, what was it that interested you in becoming an actor? Like, at what point in your life did you know that being a storyteller or being an actor was something that you wanted to do?
Movies. Watching movies. But it's kind of a two-sided thing, because my mother was a dance teacher.
Okay.
And choreographer, and she did shows probably once a month, every 6 weeks, they would put together a new show. And as a result, my mother's just profession exposed me to music, which is a very important part of my life. That's, if I have a hobby outside of reading, it's listening to and seeing music of all kinds. I have I love classical music. I really love Eastern European music. I love music from the Middle East. I love Cuban music. And I can attribute that to my mother because, in our house, she would put together these dance recitals and she had all this music, all these albums. She had Afro-Cuban, Afro-Haitian, classical Tchaikovsky, and she choreographed her ballets to the classical stuff. And she did very interesting, original things with, kids from the projects in New Orleans. And they did amazing things. I mean, I remember the faces and movements of some of those people, and many of them I know by name. And they were, 12, 13, 16-year-old kids from the projects, and who had no exposure to anything outside of the projects of New Orleans. And she was able to lift them to a place of self-esteem and self-worth and self-love. and by the same token, create things that were very exciting and artistic and entertaining. And so my first cue growing up that maybe I want to do this was around the hard work that it took. Movies was always something, but the hard work that it took. I mean, they'd spend 6 weeks rehearsing for a show they would do one night. And to me, that work ethic is just embedded in me. And I enjoyed that part of it. And I thought maybe there's an aspect of this I would like to do. Definitely not dancing, but something about this I really gravitate towards. I still am a big fan of dance. And I remember my mother said this, and she said one of the famous dance teachers, I don't know if it was Cunningham or Martha Graham or one of those people, said something that I carry with me today. She says, and my mother said this, quoting this person, "If you want to make one beautiful leap, you must leap 1,000 times."
Wow.
To get that one leap. And when the leap is over, it vanishes. But the cellular memory of the 1,000 leaps, you carry it throughout your life. And that's my work ethic began watching this hard work take place and the end result, which was magnificent, and realizing that it takes hard work to do anything you want.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. As a sidebar, I'm thinking back to the Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx vehicle, Collateral. Are you actually playing in that movie, or is that?
No,
okay,
I'm not.
All right.
I'm not.
Well, you talked about music. I wondered if you actually played.
Well, oddly enough, as a kid, I used to play trumpet.
Okay.
So, some of the fingering and embouchure, it kind of came back, but no, that was Miles Davis playing, actually.
Okay.
That was Miles Davis playing Spanish Key from Bitches Brew.
Yes. And such a sad death for your character in that movie. I really thought they were going to let you live.
Well, I got a funny take on that because my brother, who is a musician, lives in Australia, has been in Australia for about 15 years now. Jazz musician, but plays everything. And I remember my mother telling me that when he saw it, he cried. He cried as if it actually happened. And for me, that's all you want. You want people not to just cry, but you want them to feel the truth of what you're doing. Yeah. And the only acting teacher I've ever really had, said to me, I said, well, ask her, well, what is good acting? And she said, well, it doesn't matter how you get there. I mean, some people work from the outside in, Commedia dell'arte, and some people, are very, sometimes indulgently psychological in their work. She says, but it really doesn't matter how you get there. It is your job to tell the truth.
And you do it in an authentic way. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, going back to the beginning here as we rap about Bob Hearts and that you're playing the uncle and connecting with the kids in that show. And of course, Collateral, and all the other great things you've done, I think that's a good telltale sign of an actor, is you do make people feel. And I talk about that movie. I just rewatched it recently before we chatted, and I was going through it and watching some other things that you'd done. And I do find myself empathizing. It was a bummer that your character died. But it's always, when anybody dies, I think we're affected in different ways, but I tell you, I just love your body of work. And when I found out we were able to connect and talk and that you were open to a conversation, absolutely, I got very excited because I've been a fan, honestly, for a very long time, and just all the things that you've done. And of course, if people haven't watched Bob Hearts Abishola, please do. It's a fantastic show. It's very meaningful. And Billy Gardell and just everybody in it does a great job.
Billy, it's my boy.
But I'm excited for you and to see what's next. Barry, thank you for your time and being so gracious with it today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a great pleasure. I enjoy people who ask intelligent questions and who create good conversation as a result. Thank you.
Thank you.